Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 1, Episode 5.
Welcome back, friends. Today we have a most elusive guest, from lurking in the shadows and his run-ins with the police to bright-lighted exhibits and applause, the notorious Eau Claire artist, Gabriel Fischer.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. First off, tell us the best way that we can all follow you and your endeavors, how we can get in contact with you.
Yeah, probably on my Instagram. It's just Gabriel M. Fischer.
Wonderful. I did check that out, and it looks like you have a link straight to a website, right? You have like pictures, a lot of your work and stuff on there?
Yeah, kind of like a portfolio setup.
Cool. Dude, I can't lie. I'm really excited for this episode. All the episodes leading up till this point have been people that I knew pretty personally. They're all like good friends of mine, but you're definitely just like a customer that came in at one point, and then I'm like, that's that dude when you were on the news. Mm-hmm. And then, whoa, this dude that I know, he's got a show across the street at Volume 1. Like, I'm excited because I honestly don't know you that well. Yeah. I feel like we're at a point of like acquaintances, but I'm hoping by the end of this episode, we're friends.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm pretty excited about it. What can you tell me about yourself that I don't already know? Because you skate a little bit and you do a whole bunch of different art and stuff, but tell me a little bit about yourself, stuff that's not like the crazy obvious.
Sure. Yeah. I DJ a little bit kind of in my free time. I've done that professionally, and I like produce a little bit just for fun. I haven't really released a whole lot.
Do you have like a DJ name that you go by?
No, I haven't gotten that serious about it. I think in high school I did, when I like DJ proms and stuff.
Oh, where did you play? Like what kind of venues did you play?
I played my prom and then like another prom the next year. And I think I did like a middle school dance, and the university hired me at their little like air quote club.
So if anyone wants to hire you for their wedding, you're going to be the DJ king, right?
Incorrect. I did 2 weddings and they're the worst things ever. Yeah.
Right.
Weddings are terrible.
We're doing the episode basically because you're an artist, right? I like to pick all the different guests have been totally different industries just to kind of show people that whatever your passion is, there's always going to be a way to incorporate that into your life, whether it's, a full-time job or, we had a rapper on before and you're an artist. You do have a regular job though, right? What do you do for work?
I do, yeah. I'm a barista at Shift Cycler and Coffee Bar. It's in Eau Claire.
When did you start doing artwork? I mean, obviously, since you were really little, I'm sure.
I think when I really started getting into it more was when I was in high school. As like with a lot of people, I think that's kind of when things start to really click. Is like when you start to kind of develop and do an adult kind of. And then like after high school and college a little bit, I got a little bit more serious about it. It wasn't probably until 2015 when I like really started taking it seriously and devoting a lot more time and resources to it. Started doing more shows and just kind of progressed from there.
So in high school, were you taking all the extracurricular ones? You know what I mean? Or not extracurricular, the like all the different electives and stuff for it?
As much as I could, yeah. Okay. I went to Altoona, and there weren't a ton of extra like art courses, or it was kind of bare bones. But my art teacher, Miss Youngberg, she allowed like a ton of freedom, and she just kind of trusted certain students who she saw like a spark and like a fire with. So really appreciated her guidance and encouragement for sure.
I had a similar experience when I was in high school. I graduated from North High School in Eau Claire in 2008, and I was in print graphics for a couple of years. My teacher, Al Willett was his name. I ran into him the other day, which was kind of cool. Gave me that same kind of freedom. He saw like, if I was always working on stuff, he wasn't going to make me work on anything specific then.
Right.
So I made tons of different t-shirts, and I made, notepads, and I made cereal boxes, and I made stickers for my car, like big decals. I made all kinds of stuff. And having that creative freedom and kind of being like pushed to keep exploring it.
Yeah.
Dude, it's translated now because I use Photoshop all the time with my business for making all kinds of stuff. And I think that's where that kind of spark came from. So when you have those kind of mentor people that encourage it, it kind of sticks out to you, I think.
When you have someone you look up to, or at least like an authority type figure that trusts you, and like is pushing you, that really means a lot. It kind of like opens up the world a little bit more. Not everybody's against what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I totally agree. Where'd you go to college then? Did you go to Stout or Eau Claire or something?
I went to, it's called North Central in Minneapolis. It was like a small private school just for a semester. But I think I was on like academic suspension by the end of that semester.
You didn't go to class or what?
No, I didn't go to class. I just biked around and like longboarded and didn't do what I was supposed to.
So you do a ton of different kind of art. What is the first piece of artwork that you can recall making?
Oh, man.
Because I know most artists I talk to have been doing this shit forever. So it's just, I think of like my first skateboarding moments and spending hours in a garage learning to ollie and stuff. So I always had this interest of like, what did you do that like you remember?
Mm-hmm. I think what I remember best is just being a little kid drawing with my mom. And I would draw just like punk stuff for my bedroom door, like stay out and get out of here, whatever, And then I'd draw like war scenes and everything. It started when I was drawing, probably when I was like 5.
Wild. Your mom was pretty supportive about like putting up your pictures all over and stuff?
Totally, yeah. I actually asked her to make me an entire like graffiti style alphabet so that I could copy it into like whatever phrase I wanted to say.
Wow.
Yeah, she was great.
I feel like that's great for being 5 or however you were.
Yeah, it might have been
at
like
that point,
maybe 6.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was talking to another artist today, actually. She was outside my store. She was drawing a picture of my shop because of this art contest that we have going on. And I asked her, I'm like, as an artist, what do you think is a good question to ask another artist? And I told her I was interviewing you tonight. And she said, something that I think a lot of artists struggle with is they do it through high school and college and whatever, but they don't have that confidence in them. And it takes a long time for them to start believing that their art is worth anything.
Right.
And once they start believing that their art is worth something, that's when they start taking things a little bit more seriously.
Right.
Is that kind of how it worked for you? And, when did that happen?
I think with me, I kind of lucked out that I always had like friends and family that were always supportive. So I always had kind of a train of support and like this confidence was always sort of building. So I think it just kind of like built up. And I guess there was sort of a point in my life over like a small period of time when I just kind of said screw it and just started doing it a lot more and like diving into it more. And just with all of my time devoted to it, I think that it sort of developed a confidence within myself.
When was your first show?
First show outside of high school and college.
Well, you did shows in high school then?
I did, yeah. I was a part of a couple shows in high school. There was like one at like a bank. I had a drawing there, and then some shows like at the school too. But
so you've been doing these things a long time. I have a lot of interest in the street art thing, and I know I'm sure you've been interviewed. For my friends who don't know, you're pretty well known in Eau Claire for this one specific design that you put up all over. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Sure. I like wheat pasted this design I made. It was just buckwheat from the Little Rascals that I did some editing with. I think it was GIMP, just like a free like Photoshop style software. I'd print it off and I'd like draw on it with Sharpie to kind of round out the edges, and I'd put it back in. And anyways, I eventually took out his mouth pretty much only because it looked better. I thought without the mouth, there wasn't like a reason behind it right away. I thought it was just provocative, and I thought it looked really nice. And then I put it up all over the place.
How did you eventually get caught?
I think they saw my license plate from my car in like the vicinity of where some of the faces were put up. And they came to my house, and I had all the stuff in my car.
Yeah, I remember seeing it kind of all over the news, and I didn't realize it was you. Mm-hmm. I had met you prior to that. And then, I saw it all over the news. And I swear it wasn't very long after that you were having a show at Volume 1. Do you think that having it all over the news, do you think it kind of helped you with your artist career a bit?
I think so, yeah. It's like a free publicity when you do something like that. It's just like a I guess like a subversive way to market yourself. Not that that was my intention, but that's kind of how it works a lot of the times. When you do something a little bit more radical, it catches people's attention.
Sorry, I'm really interested in the whole graffiti thing because actually I did a lot of graffiti when I was younger.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's still some out. I did a bunch of different Pokemon stuff around Eau Claire. There were like Pokeballs everywhere. And eventually, of course, I got caught because I was dumb.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like
did you 20. Just use cans or did you?
Yeah, I made like multi-layer stencils, multiple colors. Yeah, I used to do a bunch. And then I eventually got caught when I was like 20 and had to do a bunch of community service and was like, well, I guess that's it from there.
Yeah.
I've sprayed on grip tape and stuff in my store since then, but I haven't gone out anymore. I'm a dad. Right. I'm not trying to get arrested.
Yeah.
What got you into doing street art? Because you obviously started just drawing, but when did you start doing street art?
I think I started doing it probably 2014. Yeah.
Did you stop immediately after you got caught with all the wheat paste stuff?
It fizzled out. There was like a period when I really slowed down and I would go out and do it a little bit. Not really anything in Eau Claire though. I would go to the cities or I'd go somewhere else. And
sure. After that, you just went to focus on different art projects that you could have for like exhibits and stuff.
Yeah, doing more legal stuff, more canvases, and.
I noticed that you do a lot of different kinds of art. Like even just perusing your Instagram account, you have sculptures and you painted a board and you painted a bike and you've done murals. You do all kinds of stuff, but. I guess what made you want to do so many different avenues? Is it because you don't really have one you specifically like attached to, or what's the deal with that?
I think it's just like I have different interests, and when I'm making art, I never want to do the same thing exactly the same way, right? I never want to do one thing the same way. So I always try to experiment with techniques and then with mediums. It just kind of comes with the territory, I think, of trying to move things in new directions. And yeah.
Does it come from, like, obviously writer's block is a super well-known term. Is it like an artist block thing where you're painting and then all of a sudden you can't seem to think of whatever you want to do, so you just move a different direction? Is that how that works?
Sometimes it's like a painter's block. Yeah, kind of. Sometimes it's just I have to wait for something to dry, and I like to keep my mind moving onto different projects. So I have like 8 paintings going at a time, or I have like a painting here and a sculpture there, and yeah, it's just kind of like keep it all fresh and keep it all new.
How many pieces do you usually have to get ready for when you do have like a big show or something?
It really depends on the venue. For the Volume 1 show, it was like a solo show. I think I had one big mural that was 8 by 16 feet, and then like four by 5 foot paintings, a sculpture, and then a few smaller paintings. It was like 10 to 12 for that. And that's kind of a smaller gallery.
How'd you do the mural? Is that you like buy a canvas that big or something, or how do you do that?
I used, it was like kind of like a particle board just from Menards, and I made like a frame out of 2x4s.
Sure.
Those things were really heavy.
I imagine.
Yeah.
How did you even bring that over? Do you have like a big truck or something?
I have a minivan.
So you're the artist who drives around his minivan just chock full?
Yeah, it's a sleeper car for sure. You can do a lot with the minivan.
Let's talk about inspiration a little bit. Did you have any artists that you were inspired by that kind of helped you with your style or inspired you to do a certain type of artwork or anything like that?
I think one of the first artists that really inspired me was Jean-Michel Basquiat, who's a painter from New York. He was a really young artist. His style was like really messy and all over the place, and it's real visceral and like full of emotion, but it was really smart and childlike. It was innocent but very mature at the same time. It just touched on a lot of things that I aspire to do with my art.
I feel like I can kind of see that with yours. It reminds me almost of like a Nightmare Before Christmas, kind of like dark but cartoony almost in a way.
Yeah. Trying to like get kind of more raw emotions and kind of real, not scenarios, but just kind of more real life. If I can portray real life through my art, that would be really great.
Can you tell me a little bit about your first exhibit that wasn't just like high school, but featuring you? Was it the Volume 1 thing, or?
That was the biggest one. But before that, I'd shown at like a few coffee shops around town in Eau Claire and in Chippewa, and coffee shops are the first ones, I think.
What kind of artwork is the main thing that you do? Do you mostly do paintings or drawings? Because I've seen sketches. Like I said, I've seen you do a bunch of stuff, but what's the medium that you prefer to do the most?
Right now, I really like doing sculptures. Besides that, paintings for sure. And drawings are like a close third. I'm kind of always doodling or drawing something as much as I can.
Are there any art pieces in particular that stick out to you as like, I'm super proud of this one?
Sure. The mural I did at the Pablo Center I was really proud of that one. It was like a really tight time schedule. I had to get it done in like a couple days, and I just had like a few hours each day to do it, which is not a lot of time when it comes to painting, especially for me. I'm the type of guy who likes to take a long time on stuff, sometimes like 3 years on a painting.
Whoa.
I'll just kind of put it off to the side and I'll poke at it. So having a couple days with a few hours that was pretty daunting, a little intimidating, but it was good. Yeah, I was really proud of myself for getting it done, and I was happy with the result. So
what'd you end up doing with that particular piece?
For the mural, it was like one of my horned characters. It was probably 20 feet tall and like 10 feet wide or something. It was just black and white, and I'd made a couple sculptures to go along with the mural piece. So I did quite a bit of planning for it and some prep. But
what'd you do with the piece afterwards?
They just painted over it, so it'll always be there.
What?
Under the surface.
Do you paint straight on the wall then for that or something?
They did, yeah. They let me paint right on the wall.
And you've done that in some other places now too, right? You said at Shift or something you did?
Yeah, I painted on their refrigerator, and I painted on there's like in the back room, there's like a window that looks out onto the cafe. I painted on their window. And then I painted a ceiling one time. This was at a different place. It was like at a scrubs store, like nurses attire. Oh, that was like a 3,000 square foot ceiling mural.
Holy shit. How long did that take you to do?
It took a couple weeks. It's like 10, 12-hour days going there and like taking down the ceiling panels. So I wasn't like Michelangelo. I wasn't like laying on scaffolding, painting like up in my face. But so yeah, I'd like take down all the panels. I'd lay them all out, and then I'd block out certain areas to do characters on. And I'd do just like abstract pieces on some of them. And then I just kind of put them all back up like a puzzle.
Wild. How did they reach out to you to do something like that?
Yeah.
Did people just like DM you for different things, or like?
That one was through a mutual friend of mine. His name is Luke. He works over at Artisan Forge Studios. He had a client that he'd been working with that had expressed interest in wanting a mural done, and he sent them my way. So yeah, so it's like through mutual friends. Otherwise, yeah, DMs or emails.
Do you do a lot of contracted work like that?
When I can, every once in a while. It's kind of like with anything that's freelance or not a job. Anything you're doing on your own, it's kind of up and down, you know.
Do you struggle finding work like that then, paying what you would want to be paid anyways? I imagine people all the time are like, dude, I'll give you my wall to paint for free. And you're like,
Right. Yeah, getting money for art is really hard. It's really difficult. No one wants to pay for it, but everyone wants it. Not mine in particular.
I think everybody wants your artwork.
That's very, very kind of you.
After this episode, everyone is gonna want your artwork. How's that?
That would be fantastic. Yeah.
How much do you typically sell your prints and stuff for? Do you sell like your originals on a website or something? Or like if somebody wants to buy any of your artwork for that matter, do they have to go to a show, or how do they buy it?
Right now, it's pretty much just in person if they see it at a show. Or if they were to ask me, I'd take them to like my studio or my storage unit, and I could show them.
Is that where your studio is? Is it just a storage unit that you rent out and you work in there?
I work in a basement of a cathedral, actually.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Is that downtown Eau Claire?
Yeah, it's the Christ Church Cathedral. It's like built in like early 1900s or something.
That's the one that looks really out of place over like kind of by Lake Street and stuff? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like it doesn't belong because all the buildings around it, there's just this church. That's cool.
Yeah.
I know that they don't really have a big congregation there either, right? They just kind of rent it out to various people.
I think so. I'm not sure what their weekly attendance is, but it's a kind of a dank old basement, kind of creepy, but it's good.
Is that where you draw some of your inspiration then for all your creepy little caricatures?
A little bit, yeah. I guess they're not as creepy in my mind as people have told me they are. Yeah. It's just kind of like just different parts of my personality or like different experiences I've had kind of express themselves through these figures.
Is that mostly what you like to draw then? Because what I've seen for the most part seems to be a lot of like characters. You don't really do, like I don't see buildings or like scenes or anything like that.
Right.
It's always like individual characters, or so it seems to be.
Yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. I don't really like doing landscape stuff too much. I'll do like, if you can, I mean, you can, some abstract paintings can be considered like landscape paintings, I guess, like a landscape of the mind or something. But
I love listening to artists talk just to hear like how you view those things.
yeah, you could pretty much ramble about nothing for forever and someone would think it was smart. So I try not to do that too much.
Perfect. Well, then let's skip right to the next thing. You said sometimes it takes you a really long time to do art projects. For me, when I dive into something, I kind of just do it, you know, and then I end up tinkering with it later maybe. But typically I just jump into something and do it till it's done. Obviously, that's not exactly how it works for you. What happens when you kind of get that block on something, and how do you kind of overcome the struggles with it?
Yeah, I think it's very situational. Sometimes I have to get something done because there's a solid deadline. If there's like a client or someone's paying me to do something,
Like the Pablo Center thing.
or like the ceiling mural, they're going to open their store, and I had to get it done before they opened. But for my own personal things, I like to take my time on them and be a little bit more relaxed about it. So
if me being, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but me being a store, right? If I had like a wall, say an 8x8 space that I wanted a mural done in my store, and I was going to give you some, you know, for the most part, creative freedom, what kind of dollar amount do you charge for work like that for commercial?
Oh man. An 8x8 space, probably like at least like $2,000, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's pretty low. I mean, the range of art pricing it's all over the place based on notoriety and like, you know, who you know and everything.
Sure.
I don't know. You could charge by square footage and by materials and hours you put into it too, but. Yeah.
I feel like that's something I want to hear a little bit more about is how do artists decide where their value is really? Because that's got to be something that's difficult to put down, right? Like you don't want to seem like you got an ego, but at the same time, you don't want to sell yourself short.
Right. And I'm not very good at doing the business side of art or anything for that matter.
What are some of your favorite things that you like to create or be a part of, like projects, whatever? Is it like doing the big murals for people? Is that one of your favorite things? Like I said, I saw that you painted my friend's bike the other day.
Yeah.
What are the projects that really excite you?
I love doing bigger stuff. Just because it's a whole lot. There's a whole lot more invested, and I get more physical with it. Like I feel it in my body, like it's work. And yeah, there's usually like a deadline, so it forces me to do something in a shorter amount of time, so I don't have to keep like obsessing over something. Just kind of like do it and put it away. So yeah, I like the bigger projects with a deadline.
If you had to give one of the art pieces that you've done to your mom and put it in her house, which one would it be?
I have this really big sculpture. I think it's at Shift right now. It's like cardboard and duct tape. It's like 9 feet tall, I think. It's like character. That'd be great. Find a spot.
Put it right in her living room?
Yeah.
Or have it in the kitchen overlooking her while she cooks?
Yeah, exactly.
What does the sculpture look like? What's the character like? Oh, we're going to put a like picture of it in with the podcast, but
it's kind of maybe a little menacing, kind of.
And that's what you want to give your mom?
Ominous, kind of looming over someone. But I don't know, there's kind of like a softer side to him too. Yeah, he's like a big white and black character with other characters drawn or painted on him.
Sure.
him or her, whatever.
However you want to envision it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I noticed that you did, looking at your Instagram, you did some that were much lighter too, though. Like, it doesn't always seem to follow the same trend. Is there a reason for that? Is that just kind of like the time you're going through with your life? Because you have a lot of just black and white stuff.
Right.
But then you have stuff with like bright primary colors and...
Yeah. I think that was when I was first getting into painting. Like, the larger paintings I did were just primary colors. They're very like Crayola, just very simple, and like what you would think a blue was, that was the blue I would use. I used that for quite a while just because it was simpler, and I limited myself with that palette, so I didn't have to like keep trying to decide what colors to use. So I had like the vessel I was using was a little bit more honed down, and it just kind of let my creative side run a little more wild, I guess. I had my tools kind of down. And then as things kind of progressed, I got a little bit simpler even by just doing black and white for a while. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just doing primarily black and white stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I guess when I'm trying to do a podcast, right, I'm having a conversation, but I'm interviewing. Like, I'm trying to get the best of everything, but I still have to kind of keep it in a direction. How do you go when you're trying to get your show set up, right? Because that's basically what people judge you on, is you put all this you put all this stuff and energy, time into creating this show, but it can't just be like one figure that you like a million times. How do you go about knowing what you're going to include on this show? Like, how do you decide? Is it like a story you're telling, or like how does that work?
Yeah, I think it depends on each show. A lot of the times I don't plan it out, and I just kind of make it all up as I go along. And I kind of notice what I have like what I've made, and I try and figure out what I need, or like what that's missing, or what would complement the pre-existing piece as well. So if I had a painting that was just flat, like no texture, black and white, I'd probably want to incorporate a painting that's a lot more textured, maybe a little bit more color, and just kind of like sprinkle in different elements throughout the show, whether it's like physical elements or thematic elements.
So basically you start with a couple that you really like, and then you just kind of work from there. You don't have an overall like plan for it at the start?
Usually not, no. And if I do, it never goes that way. So I've kind of tried to avoid planning things, because from my experience, every time you try to control or plan something, it just like blows up in your face for the most part.
I feel like that's totally different from a business standpoint for myself. Right. I always have to have a plan for all of it. I can't really let it just go.
Yeah, which is probably why I'm not very good at business stuff.
We need to adapt and both learn each other's skill sets then.
Yeah, like combine our brains somehow. That'd be
like
crazy.
What we're doing with the podcast right now.
Oh my gosh.
It's all coming together.
Mm-hmm. I see our voices combining into one audio file right now.
You could make a painting of that audio file.
Wow.
So you've been doing artwork for quite a while. For somebody out there that say they're in high school or whatever, and they're doing some drawings and, they got some A's, right? But in general, they want to do something with art. What would you give for some advice for first steps for them to start pursuing their passion?
I guess accepting that you might be afraid and you might be a little insecure, but realizing that that's totally normal and that's okay. But just to keep on moving forward, to keep on doing things, to keep on applying for shows, to keep on showing people your stuff. That's really important. Try not to get, especially with like visual artists and creatives who are a lot of times more introverted and can be more isolated. It's really good to let people in, because like the world's not out to get you. Yeah.
All right. So tell me a little bit about motivation. For me, it's totally different than what it is for an artist, right? For me, I get motivated by creating this cool place that kids get to come and hang out at. And I could tell like I'm making a difference for people. I'm being a mentor for kids, and I'm creating this safe place and doing all these different things that are part of the community. Mm-hmm. But there's also financial benefit. Right. When my shop's reputation grows and does better, financially, I'm also more stable. So there's still just that business side of it for me.
Right.
For you, though, I imagine you make some art pieces that you probably don't even sell. So all that work just goes because you want to. Like, where does that motivation come from to keep doing all the art?
Yeah, I think we're kind of more similar than different, I would say. I think creating a place within the art for people to like find like peace or like solace, or like you can really like build a community around something you care about. Yeah. Whether that is like a physical space, or if it's like music, or if it's art. With paintings, it's like a little bit different. It's not like a traditionally paintings and sculptures are kind of like snobby and like more standoffish. But if you go at it with the mindset of it being like a humble expression that you want to have a community built around, and you want to have people get excited about it, I think we're a little bit more similar.
Yeah, I could see where you're coming from. So you're saying part of what motivates you is the fact that you know it's drawing emotion with people. Like,
yeah, definitely.
They feel something, or that's what you're hoping to do with some of your artwork anyways, is to make people feel something from looking at it. It's not just because you like it.
Exactly. If I can like help broaden someone's horizons and like kind of open their mind to a new idea, not by like slapping them in the face with it, but just by presenting them with some image, that would be awesome if I could do that for someone.
I would say we're extremely similar then in that range, because I do that with kids all the time. You know, I try to show them what I think is cool or whatever, but I want to be something for these kids that creates memories and brings something special to it, whether I'm like this cooler older brother type thing that mom's cool with, or whatever the situation is. But it's not just because I like stuff. You know, I like skateboarding, so I have a skateboard shop. I'm doing it because I think like I am making a difference in doing something that matters, you know? Yeah. And it's cool that with art, you kind of feel the same way rather than just creating for the sake of creating.
Yeah, which I think is good to have that too. Like, do it for yourself, but also do it for people. Yeah.
When you're pursuing your passions, you get to do a lot of really unique stuff that you just wouldn't do in like a traditional career path, right? Yeah. Like you wouldn't just paint this massive mural or paint a refrigerator or make a cardboard sculpture for your employer. Are there any instances you can think of that happened, like any unique experiences that you got to have that happened because of being an artist that wouldn't have happened if you didn't pursue it so seriously?
Yeah. This isn't necessarily about my art, but because I wanted to become inspired, I went to Los Angeles to see an art show, and it was sort of like a haunted house art show. It was like a group experience where the artist's name is David Cho. He's like a street artist, extremely talented graffiti artist and painter. He like bought out like 3 floors of an office building in Koreatown, and we just had these like small groups of 5 or 6 people take this journey through this building that he like painted on the walls. He like destroyed everything. He had the Tupac hologram.
What?
That he just appeared on at some point. Yeah. So that was super inspiring, and I never would have gone to that if I wouldn't have been trying to pursue art and like get inspired by something. Yeah, that's probably the one of the weirder ones. I could go into more details of what happened, but
go, please.
Okay.
This is like super interesting to listen to. I've been to like haunted houses, but when you think about artwork, you know, you typically go, oh, what does the Museum of Art look like? And it's, you know, Renaissance paintings, then you have your whatever, you know what I mean?
Sure.
There's the typical things that you think of, and you don't really consider all the other forms of art, right? The music, the visuals, the textures, like it's just the visual. But imagining going into, I guess what I'm picturing in my mind is like The Walking Dead and going into like, you know what I mean? Like an office building like that with crazy shit all over the place. And yeah, obviously that is art, but that's not what you normally think of, or what
totally.
I do.
So yeah, okay. Giving a little context to the situation, David Cho, he's like this unhinged kind of crazy guy. He's hitchhiked all around the world, and he like made some shows for Vice, doing that and like making jokes, and that was the whole show. And then he painted Facebook's original headquarters. And instead of taking like 20 grand, he took stock and then Facebook blew up, and he became the richest artist in history.
Holy shit.
And so yeah, what is this like billionaire artist going to do with his free time? He like bought the office building, and he like bought this hologram thing, and he just he took everybody on this like really intimate journey through it. And it was like really, you had to like really look within yourself. There was like there were stations, and at each station there was like some sort of challenge or some sort of group activity it was pretty uncomfortable. It was mostly just with strangers. It was with all strangers. I didn't know anybody there. Like one of the rooms where you would go in and sit on these exercise balls, and this lady in like an 80s aerobic getup was just like telling us what to do the whole time. And they're like, okay, now stare at the person in front of you and just keep staring and like tell them you love them or something. And so we did that for like 5 minutes.
Whoa.
And then we left that room, and the next part of it was like we're all lying on this like moving bed, and we're going past all these different rooms, and each room was a section of David's life that was being acted out by people, which comes into like the haunted house thing. It's like you just like walk past these different scenes, and it was crazy. Yeah, and then like intermixed with that, there'd just be like a random oil painting on the wall.
So I'm assuming this is something that you want to create yourself at some point, right? Is that what you aspire to do?
Well, I guess I've sort of done it a little bit. Me and Kelsey Wemberg is kind of her baby. We've done some pop-up art events around Eau Claire called Art Fly. So we've done like some stuff in people's basements, and we took over like an old retail space. And we did more like interactive art installations and like murals. And we would have like community building activities all in the same art event. So yeah, it's definitely something I'd like to do more of for sure.
Do you do a lot of shows with other people, like collaborate? Well, I guess I'm wondering about that too. With art shows and stuff, you can have them just totally on your own, but when you have them with other people, do you collaborate on some of the art projects or on like the theme of things, or how does that kind of come together?
I guess it depends on who curates it and what their curating style is like. So for Kelsey, she's all about like a community and creating some sort of cohesive piece. So for the Art Fly events, everybody was kind of like working. I guess they weren't working together. She was kind of orchestrating everything, but people would be able to bounce ideas off of each other once we got there with our pieces. Or some people would be setting up like one of the more interactive corners. Like one lady set up a whole jungle room, and that was just part of the art show. It was just off to the side. But yeah, it's like with like the Pablo show, it was more of everybody came in with their pieces and everybody had their spot, but it all just kind of worked together. She managed to make it all cohesive. So
I suppose that's part of like the job in general, right? Of I guess producing a show. I don't know what the position or the title of that person is, but I'm sure that's part of it, right? Is to find people who their work would look right together, and then bring all those people together to create this big experience for somebody. I guess that's cool. I never really considered artwork like that. I just figured you did the sculptures and paintings and stuff, but I never considered like, dude, we could have an art show in the attic of the shop with the lights totally off, and then just some creepy little, glow lights to show all your figurines. Totally. That would freak everybody out.
I've actually wanted to do something like that. Just do a whole room dedicated to my creepy little guys.
Well, if you ever want to make that happen, I would love to be a part of that. Obviously, like with the shop, we're trying to do a lot of different things. Music and anything, really. Like that's the point of this podcast, is just to tell people like, I made a career out of something that I'm really passionate about, and I feel so fulfilled by it. Yeah. And now at this stage in my life, it's really important to me that I can help other people do that as well.
Totally.
It's kind of moved past skateboarding and into just seeing what people are inspired by and pushing them. And I get that way with my friends sometimes, where maybe I'm a little too much, but when I see somebody really enjoying something and they really care about something, I'm the first one to be like, dude, you need to be doing that so much more. I want to figure out how I can help you get to that point where you're doing that more. Let's have this journey. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So that's the exciting part, I think, with this podcast. Is I get to talk with all kinds of different people about all kinds of different stuff. And like I said, coming to artists now where I'm like hardly know what to talk about because I've had such a different experience. My painting has been, like bricks on my wall or a tree or something that's really basic.
But yeah, like we were talking about earlier, though, it is like all more connected, you know, than you might think too. That it is like about bringing people together and like inspiring for sure. Yeah.
So moving forward, what's kind of happening next? Are you going to get all over the news in New York for doing wheat pasting, like Banksy type shit? Or like what's really next on the horizons? I'm assuming you're not trying to be a barista forever, or maybe you are.
Probably not a barista forever. No, that'd be, I don't know if I'd like to do that forever. I don't want to get arrested again, so probably no wheat pasting in New York. It's also a lot more intense in bigger cities, like the ramifications. Like in California, if you do, your first offense is a felony.
Holy.
You can go to, like, 17-year-olds go to prison with, like, murderers just for painting on a wall. It's a little crazy.
That's nothing. I guess I had no idea. I guess they're cracking down on that type of stuff. So that's not what you're going to do either. Then you're not going to travel around the world doing that. But are you working on like a big show or anything that you want to plug? Or is there, what are the projects you're working on or hoping to do? Yeah.
Well, I guess my biggest project right now is I'm getting married actually in like 2 weeks.
Well, congratulations to the lucky lady.
Yeah. I've been focusing on that quite a bit, trying to keep my brain clear for that transition.
So you're not going to have your caricatures be, like your groomsmen and stuff, all the sculptures?
We will have some of my art there.
Holy Where's the wedding going to be?
In Durand at the Rod and Gun Club.
That doesn't sound like you, but whatever works.
The view is really good.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Rad. Well, again, congrats on the wedding. As far as art, beyond that, do you have anything kind of lined up, or are you right now just creating and, looking where it's going to, letting it just happen as it happens, I guess?
Pretty much, yeah. Like the latter, just kind of letting things happen. And that's pretty much how I've done it so far. It's just like applying for things here and there, and whatever turns up is what I do next. I have a couple murals lined up tentatively now. I guess I can't really talk a whole lot about them yet because they're not for sure, but so doing those and definitely more shows. So
we'll have to talk off camera a little bit about how we can incorporate and do something, because talking tonight I've already have like all these ideas in my mind of that could be super duper cool.
Yeah.
So we'll get there. There'll be more to come, I'm sure. So every episode I like to leave my friends with a little piece of advice. Would you like me to go first, or would you like to go first?
Go for it. Lead the way.
All right, I'll go first this time. Today I'd like to tell everybody to have an open mind. As you pursue your passion, things come up that change your course, and that's okay. Passions change and goals change. You don't have to end up where you initially were headed. What's important is being satisfied with where you do end up, and that isn't always the same as where you envisioned, but it could be even better.
Well, first off, I second that. That was really nice.
Thank you.
I guess just keep doing whatever it is that you really like doing. Don't stop being creative and making the things that you want to make. Don't burn any bridges. Keep your friends close, and any relationships you build along the way, keep everybody close, and don't stop.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.